I don't have a lot of battery left, but I thought about bringing you in on this. I would like for there to be a green undertone in the blue that I'm going to put on the inside of this pot and on this plate, and maybe some other things, but I don't know if it'll work or not. But I'm going to use I'm going to use neon green. It's a yellow green, very, very yellow. It looks kind of like that when it's fired. The dark part is 2 coats. The light side of that little flower is 1 coat. I need to get an even coat, but I don't want it to soak into the clay too fast. So what I did was dampen this in the under the water. Here, I'll do this. Yikes. I'll do this one. See if I got you in there. Okay, there's the sink. So I'm just gonna I'm not gonna soak it. I'm just getting it wet. And then, okay, so now I'm going to just let it sit for a few minutes. And then I took a cup of, oh, let's see, that's about, oh, that's liters. It's about 12 ounces of water. And I just poured, you know, some. This is pretty runny because I've thinned it quite a bit over time because it keeps drying out. So I can't let this sit very long because the underglaze is a little bit heavy and it sinks to the bottom. So I'm keeping this stirred up. And what I plan to do, and I'll get this on video if I can, what I plan to do is pour it into the interior of this and this, and then dump it out, probably back into this cup, and then let it dry and see if I have blotchiness. And if I have blotchiness, I may just wash it all off and forget about it. But if it works, I'll be showing it to you. Okay, now I'm going to do this one. I'm going to show you what I did. And my stuff kind of settled down while I was charging the battery. So I'm going to have to stir it up. I'm going to set it in the sink. Yeah, I'm going to do that with a brush, because then I can scrape it off the bottom. Let me set this here, get the bowl wet again because I ran over to a friend's house to borrow a drill. I'm putting panels on my front doors tomorrow, and maybe I'll show you some of that. Okay, there it is. It's all wet, and this is all stirred up as much as I can get it stirred up. So I'm just going to lay that there, and I'm going to pour this all into here. Okay, let me get it up higher. So I'm just going to roll this around. I'm not going to let it run over the edge, but I'm going to try to get it right up onto the edge. And I can see that some of it is beginning to stay in the bowl. So where it is, you can see it in those stripes there that is beginning to stick. It's kind of a chalky. I didn't want it to be just a solid coating. And I know I should be doing test tiles, but however this turns out, it's going to be pretty. So some of the pigment is settling, and so it's getting a little darker towards the center of the dish. Okay, I'm going to pour it back in there. I didn't want to splash it on the side, but I can clean it up if I need to. So what I did with the other dish was just let it roll around a little bit. And it's a little darker right there, but I'm good with that. See if we can get that to roll a little bit. This is buff clay, and I think this is some of that old buff clay. This bisque has been sitting in my studio for a very long time. Ooh, I got lots in here compared to this, but this is still wet. This one is dry already. So one thing I need to do in here, let's see if I've got a light up here. Yay. Okay. This is a neon, or no, I guess, what do you call that? One of those tube lights. And tube lights really affect the color of things. And this is an LED light, and it really does affect the color of things. Like I said, I don't usually do this at night, but I've got to get some work done. And tomorrow I'm going to be doing home improvements. I'm going to hang some cafe doors. I have to alter the opening of the door a little bit. And I'm going to put some homemade kick panels onto my front doors, because the people that do my yard are not very nice to my front doors, and the veneer is pulling up a little bit at the bottom, so I'm going to put these panels on. Maybe I'll show it to you tomorrow. Okay, so what I'm doing here, there were two things that came out of the last fire that had little bubbles on them, and I had probably stuck these in tight spots, and this one's worse. If you can see, there's a little bubble and there's a bubble, and they make little craters on there. I wouldn't sell this like this. The inside is okay, but the outside is not. So I wouldn't sell it like that, but I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Since I wouldn't sell it like that, I'm going to grind the little craters down with a dental drill. I'll show you my dental drill. Let's see. Ugh. Here's the business end of it, and this has a sheath that you can push down over it. I do it like that because if I'm on a curved surface, that thing gets in the way. But here's this is called a buffalo drill. And before they had all this, it's got a big long cord on it, and I have it suspended from a stand on my drafting table. I'm not going to try to take this down to the clay. I'm just going to rough it up a little bit and smooth it off. And then I'm going to reglaze it. But while I'm doing this with a dental drill, or even if I was on a grinder, I'm going to blow gently just to make the dust go somewhere else. Okay? So here we go. So I'm taking the sharp edges off. This has kind of dried to the touch. And so I'm going to let these dry overnight since I stuck them under the faucet and got them really wet. Then I'm going to put blue, I'm going to use sea mist in here, but remember this is not speckled clay, so we're going to find out what this does on non-speckled clay. Good morning. Here it is, daylight, and we're looking at these bowls after they got dry, and this was after I put that underglaze in there. So hopefully I won't be picking up the underglaze with this. I mean, this dried overnight, and the whole bowl and plate are dry. I also, last night, just for kicks, coated the inside of this little guy. This has a lid. So I did the inside of the lid too. And it goes like that. And hopefully I can remember to wipe the glaze off before I fire this one. Like I didn't do in the last one. Okay, so let's just slop some glaze in there. This glaze goes on so thick, and you just think, oh my goodness, this is gonna run, but surprisingly it does pretty good. You think it's gonna run because blues tend to do that, but also just because of the thickness of it. I made this glaze a little thicker than dipping in order to be able to brush it. Dipping glazes are, the formula for them are sometimes a little thinner. You can brush with them. Just make them a little thicker. Just don't add as much water when you're mixing it up. Okay, I'm going to let that dry. This, I'm not sure about the outside, whether I'm going to make this a different color on the outside, but I'll decide that while this is drying. Okay, my beans are cooking. And I've got a couple of other little home improvement projects going on. I'm going to have to make hay while the sun shines today because it is sunny outside today. I don't know if it's warm or not, but I'm going to go out and see what I can do to those front doors. Maybe I'll take you with me. Now this one is the one that I ground off the little craters on this last night. You can probably see them better in the sunlight today. Let's see, there was one right in there. So I'm just going to go over this with the same glaze that I used on it before, and just make sure that I cover those little ground off spots, and that will encourage the glaze to just fill in those spots. Actually, there were some right underneath this handle, right where my brush is, there were some little craters in there and rough spots where I ground them off. And you never want that kind of thing to be near where the person's hand is going to be. I think there was something kind of on the edge of that handle too. It's always nice if it not only feels good when they put their lips to it, but to make it so that it feels good to touch. There's so many things. This one, as you saw last night, I got rid of a crater, pretty big one right there and right there. So we're to make sure. Ooh, do I want to put? Yeah, I'm going to put copper float on. This is copper float that I'm using right now. I'm just going to go full bore on that. And I'm going to wipe away near the bottom because this thing is about to overflow. Luckily, copper float, the Mako copper float doesn't run like ancient copper does. Ancient copper is a runner. The one that is Potter's Choice ancient copper. It's gorgeous, but the runs are beautiful. Oh my goodness. But I'll tell you, I'm anxious enough while something is firing that I just don't need the grief and the extra work that it takes to clean off shelves and worry about whether it's going to run and all that. So I'm just going on the safe side. You know, life is too short sometimes to be worried about these things. So you find yourself glazes that are within your tolerance, your personality tolerance, you know, of whether or not you can stand it to have things messed up more often than just from making mistakes like I made on that last batch where I fused the top of that jewelry box to the bottom. You know, that I think I only had about 2 or 3 pieces. Well, that one was the big one. There was something else. Maybe it was these 2 guys right here that were, I considered, I probably shouldn't have stuck them in, you know, trying to use all the space. And I probably got them too close to an element inside the kiln. Okay.